So let's look at some Chapter 4 practice problems. The first question is, which of the following would generally indicate an improvement in a company's financial position, holding other things constant? So the first one says the tie ratio declines, or the times interest earned. Well, that is bad if that declines, because that means the company has less ability to pay its interest expense. So it's not that one. So B, the day sales outstanding increases. That's also bad because that means the company is not getting its money paid back to them from the customers as quickly. So when the day sales outstanding increases, that is bad. If it decreased, that'd be good. So, and then C says the quick ratio increases. That one is actually the answer. That's good because you have more current assets to cover your current liabilities. So current assets. Oh well, you know what I said. No. So you have more current assets to cover your current liabilities. And then D, the current ratio declines. That's bad because then you have less current assets to pay your current liabilities. And all of this you have to know like what these ratios, what the formulas are. So, and we will be looking at that in just a little bit. And then E, the total assets turnover ratio decreases. That's also bad, not an improvement, because that means the company is less efficient with its total assets to produce sales. And let's look at question 2. Okay, so if the CEO of a large diversified firm were filling out a fitness report on a division manager, like grading the manager, which of the following situations would be likely to cause the manager to receive a better grade? So, A, the division's basic earning power ratio is above the average of other firms in its industry. Well, that one actually is the answer. That means that they have more EBIT relative to sales, because what it is, it's equal to EBIT over sales. So if that goes up, then that's good. And then B, the division's total assets turnover ratio is below the average for other firms in its industry. Well, that one's bad because you would like to be above the average so that you're more efficient. So that one is bad. And then C, the division's debt ratio is above the average for other firms in the industry. Well, usually you want to be close to the industry average or maybe even less than the industry average for your debt ratio. If you have a higher debt ratio than your peers, then what can happen is you look more risky and you're less likely going to be able to get a loan as a company because you already have more debt than the other companies that are like you. And so that causes problems with the bank. And then D, the division's inventory turnover is 6, whereas the average for its competitors is 8. So that one's bad. You want a higher number than your competitors for your inventory turnover ratio, but because that means you're selling out of your inventory faster, like you want to be more than 6 times per year, whereas the industry is 8 times per year. You want to be at like 10 times per year. So the higher the inventory turnover ratio, the better. And then E, the division's days sales outstanding is 40, whereas the average for its competitors is 30. That's bad. That means that you have people that are paying you late for your product, and that keeps cash away from the company 10 days longer than what all your competitors are getting. So you want a day sales outstanding equal to the industry average, and usually the target is around 30 days. And then question 3, which of the following would indicate an improvement in a company's financial position? So we're looking at that type of issue again. So A says the inventory and total assets turnover ratios both decline. Well, again, we want them to increase, but they both decrease, so that's bad. That means you're not turning over inventory or your total assets relative to sales as well as the other people in your industry. And then B says the debt ratio increases. Just in general, that's bad. Like we were talking about before, you don't want a really high debt ratio. And then question C, or letter C, the profit margin declines. Well, everyone probably knows that that's bad because you want a higher profit margin and be a more profitable company. And then D, the times interest earned ratio declines. That's bad because that means that the company has less ability to pay its interest expense with earnings before interest and taxes. And that makes them a riskier company, and they could get downgraded in terms of their debt rating. And then E, the current and quick ratios both increase. And so that one is the answer. That's good because that means your liquidity position has improved. And so now let's go down to a problem that has multiple questions. We're just basically going to calculate all the ratios. So you get this big spreadsheet, or I'm sorry, it's a balance sheet and an income statement. So you see the balance sheet at the top and the income statement and other data. So it's a ton of data, but what we're going to do is pick pieces of it to calculate the financial ratios that we learned about in this chapter. So if I just go to like question 4, what's the firm's current ratio? Well, the current ratio, we usually call it CR. It's current assets divided by current liabilities. So if I go up here and see what current assets were, current assets is right here, and it says it was 24,940. Whoops. Okay, so 24,940. And then I'm going to divide it by current liabilities. So if I go back up here, total current liabilities is $18,920. And so when we divide those two numbers, you should get 1.32. And that's answer D. And then if we look down to question 5, what is the firm's quick ratio? Well, the quick ratio is equal to current assets minus inventory divided by current liabilities. And this is, it's called the quick ratio because it says, how quickly can you pay your current liabilities with current assets without having to rely on the sale of inventory. And so we know from just up here, current assets were 24,940. I'll have minus and I'll get the current liabilities. Oh, I'll get the inventory, I mean. And the current liabilities were 18,920. And now I need to go look for inventory. And that's going to be up in the current assets. And inventory is right here, 13,760. So minus 13,760. And when I do the math, I get 0.59 is the quick ratio. It's not really a good number. You'd like it at least to be above 1, but that's what they had. And then the next question is, what is the firm's day sales outstanding? So day sales outstanding is accounts receivable divided by sales per day, which is sales divided by 365 days. And they said right here, assume a 365 day year. So I need to find accounts receivable up in the balance sheet. So if I go up here, accounts receivable is 9890. So I'll put 9890 and then divide by sales divided by 365. So sales is going to be in the income statement. So I go back up, and the income statement sales is 51,600. So 51,600 divided by 365 in the denominator. And when we do the division, you should get 69.96, and that's answer E. And then question 7 says, what is the firm's total assets turnover ratio? We abbreviate it by saying TATO, and it's just sales divided by total assets. So how efficiently are we using our assets to produce sales? And let's see, we just got sales over here. It was 51,600. And then total assets, we need to look up on the balance sheet. Total assets is right here. It's 43,000. So I'm sorry I have to go back and forth, or up and down, I guess. So 43,000. So the total assets turnover is 1.2. And then so all of these are pretty quick. Question 8 is, what is the firm's inventory turnover ratio? Sometimes people abbreviate it like that, INVTO. And it's sales divided by inventory. We know the higher this number, the better. And we know sales, we can use that number again. It was 51,600. And then inventory, we can go back up and look at it on the balance sheet. Inventory was again 13,760. And so the inventory turnover ratio is 3.75. And that's answer A.